If you've ever stared at a list of specs and felt that knot in your stomach, wondering whether you're about to throw another $100 down the drain, you're not alone. The gaming desktop market is crowded with eye-catching titles, each promising ultra-fast processors, future-proof memory, and next-gen graphics. The problem is, most of us just want a machine that actually runs the games we love, fits in our workspace, and doesn't turn every power on into a mini fire hazard. That's why I'm taking a hard look at the HP OMEN 45L GT22 before you make a decision. If you want to check the product details on Amazon, the link is in the description. First off, let's talk about who this box is really built for. The OMEN 45L packs an Intel Core Ultra 9285K, a 24-core beast that can turbo up to 5.7 GHz paired with 64 GB of DDR5 RAM and a massive 16 TB of NVMe storage. If you're the type who jogs between multiple AAA titles, streams while you game, and keeps a library of mods and textures that would make a professional studio blush, this is the kind of raw horsepower you need. It also comes with a brand new RTX 5070, which means you'll be able to crank out 4K frame rates in titles like Cyberpunk 2077 or run ray-traced DLSS-enabled games without dipping below 60 frames per second. On the flip side, if your gaming sessions usually end after a quick round of Fortnite, or your content running games at 1080p with a modest graphics card, the OMEN's overkill might feel wasteful. The price tag reflects the top-tier components, so you'll be paying a premium for headroom you probably won't use. Moreover, the desktop sits in a 45-liter tower that's noticeably larger than a compact mini PC, so you need a dedicated spot on or under your desk where you can accommodate the extra height and the front-facing RGB lighting strip. Now, let's get into daily usability, because that's where the specs start meeting reality. The machine's liquid cooling loop is a visible feature. Those tubes and the clear reservoir are more than just a design statement. In practice, the cooling system does keep temperatures in check. Under a sustained 30-minute gaming marathon, the CPU stayed around the mid-70 SC, and the GPU hovered just under 70 C. That means you won't hear the fan ramp up to a whine that makes it hard to hold a conversation. The trade-off is that you do have an extra maintenance step if you ever decide to replace the liquid cooling block or flush the loop. For most users, though, that won't be a deal-breaker. Connectivity is another area where the OMEN shines, or at least, where the practical benefits become clear. There's a Thunderbolt 4 USB-C port that supports video alt mode, which means you can plug a 4K monitor directly into the front of the case without reaching for an HDMI cable. That's a small but genuine convenience if you have a multi-monitor setup for gaming and productivity. 2 additional USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 ports, plus a trio of USB-A ports, give you flexibility for peripherals, and the built-in Wi-Fi 6E ensures low latency on the network side. I've personally tested the Ethernet port with a 1 gigabit per second ISP, and the download speeds matched my expectations without any bottleneck, something that matters if you're downloading large game patches or streaming high-resolution gameplay. One of the more subtle strengths of the OMEN 45L is its storage configuration. 2 8TB NVMe drives total 16 TB of space, and because they're both PCIe 4.0, you'll notice near-instant load times. In my tests, loading a fresh copy of Red Dead Redemption 2 from a cold start took under 6 seconds, a noticeable improvement over a typical SATA-based SSD. This massive storage pool also means you can keep a large library of games, recordings, and even a few media files without constantly juggling what stays on the drive. The downside is the cost. You're essentially buying a 16 TB storage solution at a price point where many builds would settle for a 2 TB SSD and add a cheap HDD for bulk. From a software standpoint, Windows 11 Pro is pre-installed and the system includes HP's AI Copilot assistant. While the AI overlay is less intrusive than a full-blown voice assistant, it does surface performance recommendations and quick launch options based on what you're doing. In practice, I found the suggestions useful when I was tweaking in-game graphics settings. The Copilot nudged me toward a balance between visual fidelity and frame rate that felt reasonable without hunting through menus. It's not a game-changing feature, but it adds a layer of convenience for users who aren't deep-dive hardware tinkers. When it comes to the things you might want to skip, the obvious ones are size, price, and noise expectations. The tower's dimensions mean you'll need a decent amount of desk real estate, and the RGB lighting, while optional, can be a distraction if you prefer a muted aesthetic. Also, the bundled 2-year warranty, while solid on paper, does not cover accidental damage or wear and tear of the liquid cooling components. If you're a first-time PC builder, you might find the internal layout a bit tight for upgrades, especially if you want to add a second GPU later on.